Good evening, members, and welcome to this meeting of the Cobtree Manor Estate Charity Committee. I'm Olivia Gunnery, the Democratic Services Officer, and I will take you through the first two items on the agenda. Just for housekeeping, the meeting will be broadcast live and recorded for playback on the Council's YouTube channel. Will anyone else be recording the proceedings? No? If the fire alarm sounds during the meeting, please remain seated and I will assess the situation and give further instructions on the evacuation of the building if necessary. So item 1, apologies for absence. There are no apologies. So item 2, election of chairman. Can I have a nomination for the election of chairman, please?
Can I nominate Councillor Wales?
And is that seconded?
I second that.
And just to check, there are no other nominations, are there? No? In which case, if that's agreed, members, Councillor Wells, you've been elected as chairman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Let's go to the next page. So item 3 then, election of a vice chair. Can I have nominations for the election of vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Harwood, having just double checked with him.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? Okay, is that agreed, councillors? Thank you very much. If there are no other nominations, there are no other nominations, that's fine. Urgent items, number 4. Are there any urgent items? There are none. Notification of visiting members. I think there are none. I can't see them anyway, flocking in. Disclosure by members and officers. Are there any disclosures to be made? Ladies and gentlemen? No, thank you. Disclosures of lobbying. I see none. To consider whether any items, I move that all items be taken in public unless any cabinet member wishes to refer to the information contained within the exempt appendices, in which case the cabinet will need to enter into closed session having applied the public interest test. Is this agreed? Thank you. Item 9 then. I move that the minutes of the meeting held on 22nd of January 2025 be approved as a correct record and signed. Is that agreed? This is pages 1 to 3. Thank you. Right. There are no petitions this evening on item 10. There are no questions, item 11, and no questions from members to the chair. It's item 12. So, having rapidly run through that, let's move to item 13. This is the Cobtree Manor Estate financial position, so I'll hand over to Mr. Holland. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so this is the regular report to the committee showing the current financial position for the operational activities of the estate. The table at 2.2 in your report summarises the draft outturn position for 24-25 in the column to the left. And the columns on the right-hand side show the position for the current year up to the end of June. And there's a more detailed breakdown of these figures shown at Appendix 1 to the report. So starting with 24-25, my report shows net expenditure of just over 6,000 for the year. But since I wrote the report, it's come to light that the investment income figure was overstated by 30,000. What's happened is we received a couple of instalments of gift aid money, and these were incorrectly classified as bank interest in the ledger. So the net expenditure figure for the year is actually now close to 40,000. The gift aid money is ring-fenced for capital expenditure, which is why it's not included in these figures. You may recall from the last meeting that our external auditors had asked us to check with HMRC that they were satisfied with the arrangement we had with Kent Life regarding the gift aid, and the good news is they have confirmed they are satisfied with it, so we can now sort of proceed to plan to use that money, as we'll hear later in the agenda. We'd already received 112,000, and we've obviously now received that 30,000 I just mentioned, and we've got a claim in for a further 22,000. So up to the end of March, we were looking to receive around about 164,000 once we get that last payment in. So that's in line with the projections that we were looking at, because that's an 18-month period we've claimed over now, and we were looking at about 100,000 a year. So the 24-25 figures are subject to an external audit, which starts next week, and the annual accounts will be brought back to the committee for approval in January. Moving on to the current financial year, the other piece of good news is that we've now made the final repayment to the council for the cost of the car park reconstruction. So that's going to free up nearly £70,000 a year going forward, and that's reflected in the projected net income of 63,000 for the current year. For the current year to date, there's no significant variances to report. I think that reflects the stability of the financial position now. We've got contracts in place for all of the various operations on the estate, and they're all bringing in a steady stream of income now. That concludes my report. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions, colleagues? Yes.
Not a question, just it all looks good. So well done.
Yeah, it all looks like a good news story to me. I'm assuming there's nothing you're worried about with the audit report coming up?
No, there shouldn't be. I say everything's sort of settled down now over the last couple of years on the estate. So I think obviously the gift aid was an issue they raised last year, but we've had the confirmation from HMRC, so that's good news. And so no, hopefully no surprises. So
hopefully they've learned how gift aid works. They might pass it on to other clients. Okay, so this report is just for noting. So are we agreed to note it? Noted. Thank you very much. Item 14 is the estate update, and this is to be introduced by Mike Evans, the Property and Leisure Manager. Over to you, Mike.
Thank you, Chair. So things of particular note in this report are the golf course performance. Some really strong numbers on site there since I always want to call them the new operator, but the current operator, they've got their feet under the table now. They are delivering really strong numbers. Also, since writing the report, I've got the Kent Life numbers, which weren't available when drafting. So at Kent Life, numbers there in day visits are 17% up on 2024 for the same quarter. Education visits are on a par. And numbers for the rolling 12-month total are on a par with the previous 12 months. So steady performance at Kent Life as well. And then one further update to the papers, paragraph 2.5, members will now be aware that the biodiversity assessments that are referred to in the papers, we now have a meeting with the consultants to go through the findings of those reports and come up with recommendations as kind of a group of stakeholders, with Parks and Open Spaces colleagues and with members attending as well. So obviously members will be aware of that, but for the record. The report summarises the other key updates, so no need for me to go through them item by item, and happy to take any questions as always.
Thank you very much. Yes, I did note there was a meeting set up for the biodiversity thing in the week, but I said I couldn't make it, sadly, so I shan't be able to be there. I see they have the Kent Life have a new CEO. Is that making any difference? Is that making any changes or any noticeable improvements?
It is, Chair. Yeah, we've met him 2 or 3 times now. He's got a very good track record and background in the hospitality and leisure sector, working for some kind of national names that everyone would have heard of. The CEO position didn't exist previously because the owner of the business had a very active interest, but he's now succession planning for his own retirement. So bringing in a chief exec to work alongside him is going to be really good for Kent Life.
And good news to see that the golf course is doing so well. Any other questions? Councillor Harwood, then Councillor Cox.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. It seems quite a long time ago, but we had a really useful meeting with the new provider at the golf course and had a walk round the ground. And I think actually, as well as the tighter performance commercially, I think that they're actually very progressive in terms of their green management approach and so on, and some of their plans that they have for enhancing the landscape and biodiversity, and not just the kind of economic function, if you like. So I think it's very positive, and I think the very fine spring and early summer weather has obviously really helped with all of these figures. So we'll see that now the school holidays have started and it started raining. We'll see how it however, just one quick thing, as mentioned, on the 14th, I think it is, we've got a meeting with the various stakeholders to look at the level of commitment to some of the biodiversity net gain project recommendations. But aside from that, I think within the nature recovery budget that is separate to the B&G calculation, there is a project at Cobtree on the list. I think it was a pond or a couple of ponds near the entrance, and because that is potentially there and the funding's already there and identified, and that could all contribute as well. So I think we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that we've got that slightly separate ecological enhancement cash already kind of identified as a potential project. So perhaps next time we have an update, it would be good to think about that and kind of what the delivery trajectory is, if it's technically feasible. Thank you.
Okay. Any need for comment for that? No. Councillor Cox.
Thank you. I've got two questions, if I may. So the first one, I'd just be interested to hear your thoughts on parking at Cobtree Manor Park. I know it's something we've talked about before, and if it's a status quo for now, or if you've got plans to change the arrangements there. And my second one was around, we've talked about in the past the Young Farmers Field, and whether there are any updates on that of any note. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. On parking, we manage this jointly with the Parks and Open Spaces team, and we've always followed the principle of mirroring Moat Park, and I note that Moat Park has changed its arrangements recently, so there is scope for Cobtree to review its parking arrangements as well. We last reviewed them in 2020, I think, so yeah, definitely scope to review them. We are making plans at officer level to bring to you. Obviously, the next report on the agenda proposes some changes to the park as well, so it may be timely to align the two things. And on the farmers' field, was your question relating to the biodiversity net gain opportunities? So we're writing into the new lease with the farmers or young farmers that we claw back some rights as landlord to implement biodiversity net gain changes on the land. And then the assessments that have been carried out that Councillor Harwood was referring to, they've looked at the whole estate, so the park, the Kent Life areas, the young farmers areas, and the golf course areas, and they'll be producing those list of items that we can go through on the 14th and look at which ones are the best for implementing now with our own funds or recovery funds, which ones are best to have as biodiversity net gain opportunities for developers. That could be the councillor's developer or a third-party developer, and really picking which ones we want to prioritise and which of the three headings.
Has there been any reaction from the young farmers about this? Or,
yes, all positive.
positive, good.
Yeah, so we're extending the lease as part of a surrender and re-grant. They came to us looking for a longer lease to leverage in some external funding to make some improvements to their facilities. So they needed a longer security of tenure to qualify for the grant, and in negotiating those terms, we took the opportunity to give ourselves some B&G rights on the field where it doesn't affect their operations. So corners, hedgerows, those sorts of things. So we can still give them space for their permitted use, but where they're not using space, we can make use of that land.
Great. Sounds like a good win-win all round. Just one final question from me. Garden Cottage, you mentioned it needed some works. We obviously don't want the details, but just wondered how those were progressing.
On Garden Cottage, we have quotes back from some contractors, but not enough yet to make a decision on which contractor to appoint. So we'll be making decisions on which contractor will go and do the works in due course. Again, working with housing colleagues to make sure that the occupants are disrupted as little as possible, appreciating that there will need to be some disruption to carry out the works. Yeah.
When's the deadline for quotes to come back?
I think it's this Friday.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Are you expecting many more? I mean, or just enough?
Yeah, we've written to enough contractors to satisfy the regulations for a broad enough range. Yeah. And from what I've seen so far, we have suitably able contractors to go and do the work, so it's just a case of getting the best price.
Okay. Obviously keen on that with another hat on, of course, with the property holdings. Right, okay. Are there no other questions on that? Oh, it's Councillor Howard.
Sorry, Mason Borough Council, as landowner, actually on the other side of the A229, is a little bit embroiled in a little bit of a to and fro with Kent County Council because of their proposals to significantly upgrade the earlier plans they had for junction improvements to quite a significant new highway scheme, effectively. The justification given by Kent County Council, which we're not entirely sure complies with the MPPF, is a kind of predict and provide thing, that if you get a new Thames crossing, you're going to get massive development in North Kent, and that's going to lead to significantly more money on more traffic on trunk roads. However, one challenge we have across the whole of the estate is the traffic noise from the A229, and it certainly interferes with the experience both of the park and of the golf course. And I'm just considering that if they are serious about the potential traffic growth, it will kind of add to the disbenefit we've got from the proximity of that road, and whether we need to start thinking about approaching the highway authority about acoustic fencing, because equivalent roads that wide, if they're brand new or even if they're added to, have all got acoustic fencing now, whereas we have none. It's literally the road on an embankment, and then you're in the golf course, or then you're in the park. So I just wonder if we need to put that into our forward plans to start to have some conversations with the highway authority about the noise impacts and what, if anything, can be done to mitigate them, because it must have an effect on the willingness of people to use the golf course and so on. And if it's going to get worse, we need to do something. And just as an example, I know that Leeds Castle, they put acoustic bunds and fencing along the A20 where the traffic problem is much less, and it had a very significant impact on reducing ambient noise around the castle. And I think it enables things like the concerts and so on, which they were having real problems with before it was introduced.
Yes, all noted, Councillor Harwood. Yeah, we can pick that up with KCC and the highways authorities. Yeah.
I have to say, it's bad enough negotiating the roads to get in there yourself without the experience being spoiled by the noise once you do. So I would second that entirely. You see great swathes of the M25 has acoustic shields around to keep the noise out. Okay, if there are no other questions on that report, then that's for noting as well. Is that noted? Thank you very much. Item 15. It's still with Mike Evans. It's the capital programme update.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm very pleased to be bringing this report to you today. It's one I've had an ambition to be bringing for a while. the ripple effect of COVID has passed through our finances, as Mr. Holland explained earlier. And we've had the gift aid clarification as well, which has helped align things for us. And this report seeks committee approval to proceed with a full replacement of the play equipment and play area at Cobtree. The timber play area has reached the end of its expected life, and the report explains how we've been managing that over the last few years. And working with colleagues in parks and open spaces, we've completed a number of refurbishments and replacements in recent years at other parks, and plan on preparing a similar brief and inviting contractors to quote for works at Cobtree. In devising that brief, we've identified the play area at Cobtree can be much more accessible than it currently is, and we have the benefit of the topography of the site to make some really good inclusive play for children and who have mobility issues and sensory issues there. It's our intention to use metal frame structures with recycled panelling, as these are safer, stronger and last much longer. And in future, the panels can be replaced without needing to replace the whole structure. The current timber play area is the structure of the play area that is our concern. This is a project that can achieve community involvement, and we've discussed engagement opportunities with the Council's communications team, and we can line those up when we're ready to go out to the public with this news. The estimated cost is included in the capital forecast on the yellow papers. And in terms of transparency, we'll share those sums with the public at a later date. So they're restricted at the time being, so we don't undermine any tender exercise with contractors by telling them what's in the budget. Also in the capital forecast is the knock-on effect this project will have alongside the other capital priorities we have, and it shows how we expect to fund these in the coming years. We're confident we have sufficient resource at the moment, but without knowing final prices and the exact timing of invoicing across the estate, we've included at recommendation 7 the delegated authority for the Director of Finance and Resources to make short-term loan arrangements with the Council should the need arise, and to fund the project without needing to come back to committee for such a decision. Like I say, it's retained sufficient operating cash flow across the invoicing period if we need to. Again, happy to take any questions on any elements.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes, Councillor Holworth.
Thank you, Chairman. It covers within the report materials that the new play equipment will incorporate. It does not cover what the safety surfacing is going to be, and I know there are some question marks about some of the surfacing. You know, we're quite close to the River Medway and things, and you end up with literally millions of pieces of microplastic ending up in the water table. So if we are going for a more sustainable approach that's going to last for a long time and is going to be more sustainable, I think we really do need to go into the technology we're using on the safety surface to make sure it is optimal in terms of its environmental performance and in terms of its sustainability. Because I know there's all sorts of different approaches, from the kind of, you know, almost kind of strands of wood fibre that are used in places like Howlett's through to some kind of other kind of rubberized type surfaces. And I know there are a number of options, but I think some of them that reuse things like tyres and plastic are very harmful to the environment. So I just think we need to make sure that we're looking very closely at the specification of whatever we use, so that we can actually promote the whole project as being cutting edge in terms of its sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Howard. Yeah, I'll pick that up with the Parks and Open Spaces team in the brief. I know we've talked about wet, poor play area surfacing, which is what we've used in other parks, but we can make sure that's noted specifically in the brief.
Good. I think this is a great opportunity to update the play area as well. Personally, I'd be very keen to see it taken away from the zoo theme and concentrate more on wildlife rather than captive wildlife. I think that much more in keeping with today's views and today's interest for young people, I suspect, although it's a long time since I was one. I think that's quite a good point. And you were talking, when we spoke about this, about within the play area, making use of the bank, so that more or less able children could get up to the top. And you'd like to explain that, because I find that quite moving.
Yes, can do, Chair. So the topography at Cobtree allows us to create structures where children with mobility issues can use the topography slope to get to the top of a play structure and then look down on their peers. So for children in that position, they spend a lot of their time looking up at other children playing, and their whole experience is to be the lowest person in the play area, always looking up. This opportunity means that they can be on the top of a structure and looking down. And we've got the topography to do that quite naturally with a path, not having to build lots of ramps to get to that level of height. So that's a real feature. And the other thing that the parks team have identified is that because there are no houses in the immediate vicinity, we can use noise play and sensory play and not have any specific recommendations about back gardens backing onto the park and things like that. So its location gives us two benefits that other parks wouldn't have.
Mm-hmm. As long as the noise play isn't too noisy or the lights too bright for the wildlife. I'll get that in before Councillor Harwood does.
Just one other very quick. I took a small relative to a play area the other day, not far from here, and the equipment on a very hot sunny day, you could fry an egg on it, and and the children were like skin stuck to it. Yeah. So I think we do need to think about longer term some of the shade issues, so the kind of trees that are around it, but also I think colour is quite, you know, the dark surfaces like the swings that were black were red hot. So you know, if we're going to have more of these intense kind of warm periods, we need to start to think about the colouring of things, and perhaps paler the better.
We had to impregnate some swing seats with very strong scented lemon flavour, because certain characters were using them for their dogs to train their jaws on, which is rather unpleasant. So I hope we don't have to resort to that sort of thing here. Okay, any other questions on this report? Yes, Councillor Cobbs.
So I'm really pleased to see this report come too. I think it's really exciting, and you know, it'll be a welcome upgrade to the park, and much deserved. I'm just looking at 4.9. It's something I've spoken about with Mr. Green. It's great if we can fund all of the project from the charity reserves, and I trust the recommendation you have here for that decision and whether to draw on a short-term loan to be with the roles that you've specified here. One thing I would be interested in, though, is if you could return maybe before next meeting with a view on whether we should have a ratio of reserves, free cash, to whatever it is, whether it's to our income, whether it's to our projected expenditure, whatever you think, as a minimum level. Because when I see suggestions that we may use, I mean, sorry, let me go back. If this depleted our reserves and we were then going to sit tight and wait for, you know, future revenue to come in to replenish those, that I'd get a little bit itchy about that. So yes, so I'd be interested in what was the minimum level that we think is prudent to have, and if that turns into a policy, then I think that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Of course, you would agree, a very favourable rate of interest. Any other questions? Paul?
Yeah, I think that's a very good idea, actually. I think obviously the last few years it's been a bit difficult with everything being up and down, but now we're in this stable position going forward. I think that's a very good idea, so it's something we'll look at and bring back to you at a future meeting, definitely. So, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, colleagues? No? So there are 7 recommendations. If there are no amendments or whatever, then I propose that we accept these 7 recommendations and move forward as they stand. Is that agreed? Yep, 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you very much. So that's it, folks. Thank you very much. I declare the meeting closed. Oh, do I need to sign some?